everybody, this is Gina reporting to you for duty, and welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, welcome. My name is Gina and I've been an expat in Japan and Korea for the past 6 years. And today I'm going to teach you how you can get an English teaching job in South Korea. Take off. One of the biggest FAQs that I get on my Instagram, my YouTube channel, and my blog is how do I get an English teaching job in South Korea? Well, Gina Bear is here to solve that for you, so let's get into this video. But first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and why I decided to teach English in South Korea. If you guys already know my story, feel free to skip ahead, but for those of you that are new here, let me tell you why. I was an English teacher in Okinawa, Japan from 2012 to 2015, and I was on the GEPIK program, and I was at a Japanese high school in a small village called Yomitan. In 2014, I came to Seoul, South Korea on holiday, and I absolutely fell in love with the people, the culture, the food, and I was just like, this feels more like home than Japan ever did. And I decided after I finished my tenure on the GEPIK program that I was going to come and move to South Korea. Also, some of the really big and main deciding factors of me moving over to Korea were quite a few things, and the first biggest one was the housing. Most contracts here in South Korea, they will cover your housing and they will pay for it, which is awesome. While I was in Japan, I was unfortunately in the poorest prefecture, so they couldn't pay for my housing and I paid for it out of my own salary and pocket. Also, I just really loved the food here. For me, Japanese food was just so bland and I was just like, I can't even with this food, but Korean food is just full of flavors and it's delicious and yummy and it makes me so happy. Also, I wanted to come here because I knew that the cost of living was a lot cheaper and I could pay off my debts and save money. And I am pleased to announce that 3 years later, I did what I set out to do and I am completely debt-free. I paid off all my student loans, so woohoo! Yay! If you don't have a huge amount of student debt like I did, then it's totally possible to pay off your student debts in a very minimal amount of time, and you can do it and it is awesome. So now that you guys know my story, let's jump into the job requirements and the paperwork that you need in order to come over here to Korea. The first thing you're gonna need is a valid passport from the United States of America, Canada, Ireland, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa. You need a bachelor's degree in any subject, and you don't even really need any teaching experience either. You need a background check with a squeaky clean record, and you also need a flawless health check. And the last thing you need is a TOEFL certificate. Most jobs here, they require you to have this TOEFL certificate. There's no getting around it anymore. You have to have it. And because Gina Bear loves you all so much, I am partnered with an amazing company. It's called ITTT, and they offer TOEFL certificates for you, and I'm here to give you a 15% off discount off your TOEFL certificate. So instead of paying $199, you are going to be paying $165 for your TOEFL certificate. I honestly wish I would have known about this company because it is accredited all over the place, and I paid literally double that for my TOEFL certificate. I paid like $400 and I wish I didn't. So I'm here to help you out. Grab that discount in the description box below and get your TOEFL. Like, there's no excuse, just do it. I also get a lot of questions on my channel asking me like, what if I'm not from the main English teaching countries? Can I still teach English here? In short, the answer is yes and no. I had a friend from Greece who also majored in English and pretty much had a British accent when he spoke English, and he probably knew a lot more about the grammar than most native English speakers do, but unfortunately he couldn't get a public school job, so he worked part-time at a Hagwon, which is a private academy, and he was able to have a job that way. But like I said, it's really hard if you don't come from the main English-speaking countries, so just be aware that that kind of counts against you. Okay, so now that I mentioned Hagwons, let's get into the great debacle / debate. Private school versus public school. So private school here in Korea is called a Hagwon. Now Hagwons and public schools both have their pros and cons, so I'm going to start with the pros of a Hagwon. So one of the pros is that the classes are planned for you, so you don't have to do any lesson planning. You just have to see what you have to teach and then go forth and teach it. So for those of you that hate lesson planning, this is great for you. It's also easier to pick and choose where you live in Seoul because there's just so many more Hagwon jobs available. You have higher level students, although not all the time. You will have some low level students and some unmotivated students. You also have a bigger selection of what to teach. You can teach elementary, middle, or high school students. You can also go to a private academy where you are just teaching business English to corporate employees. I had a friend that also did that. You have smaller class sizes, which means you can have a better relationship with your students. There's also more than one foreign teacher at the school. And again, you have a higher chance of being hired since there are more Hagwon jobs here in Korea. So some of the cons of teaching at a Hagwon, there are shady Hagwons here in Korea. So that means like sometimes they will fire you for absolutely no reason to avoid paying severance pay or giving you your benefits. This has happened before. Again, not all Hagwons are like this, but it can and it does happen. You have longer teaching hours and like back-to-back classes sometimes with no break. You're usually alone without the help of a Korean co-teacher. So if you like doing things alone without a co-teacher and that's just how you roll, then that's good for you, I guess. You get fewer holidays, fewer paid time off. At the end of the day, a Hagwon is a business, so it's not really a school. So if a parent is unhappy about the student's grade, you will have to change the student's grade because it's all about making the parents happy and then channeling more money into the Hagwon so that you can actually have a paycheck. So sometimes you're gonna have to deal with stuff like that. And also there is discrimination based on race. So some people here unfortunately still have that stereotype that the perfect foreigner for an English teaching job will have blonde hair, blue eyes, white skin, and there are Hagwons that won't hire you if you don't fit the bill. So just be aware that this kind of stuff still happens. Okay, so now that we talked all about a Hagwon, which is the private school, let's talk about the public school, which is the system that I'm currently in right now. Now, what's really nice about the public school is you get 20 days of paid leave throughout the year, and if you renew your contract, you get an additional 5, so that's 25 days of paid vacation, which is awesome. You have more job security because this is a government contract, and government contracts are gold. So whereas a Hagwon can fire you for any reason, pretty much, in a public school, they need to get a lot of evidence against you if you are not doing right by them. Also, since the class sizes are bigger in public school, you have a Korean co-teacher there to help you, so there is no language barrier. So if the kids are getting out of hand, the Korean teacher can step in and be like, yo, that's not cool, settle down, little monsters, and you're good. And what's nice is you only focus on making your lessons and teaching the class, so you don't do a lot of grading. I know some public school teachers do. I also do grading, but not a lot compared to the Korean teachers, so there's that. And of course, you get more vacation time. Yay! Did I mention you get more vacation time? Some of the cons of a public school are you do in fact have a larger class size, so you can't have a more personal relationship with those students. And at times, the public school can be very disorganized, and I say this because it comes from experience. The thing is, if you don't speak Korean, and even if you do speak Korean, you will always be the last to know things or get told at the last minute, which kind of sucks because somebody will assume someone else told you and then you get a last minute surprise. So just be aware that this kind of stuff happens all the time. Now I understand a lot of Korean. I've been here a while and I still get sideswiped sometimes. Another downside is that you have like really boring textbooks and you have to teach to them sometimes. and it's getting super difficult to find any middle school or high school jobs. The government is cutting back on a lot of these jobs, so your chances are very slim at getting one of those if you don't want to teach children. And because GEPIK has now merged into EPIK, there are more teaching contracts for public school out in the countryside versus Seoul. One of the last things that could be a pro and a con depending on how you look at it is desk warming. So from January to February they have a huge winter vacation because the school year starts in March. So you will be sitting there pretty much just desk warming. Now, if you're someone like me who has hobbies like blogging and Instagram and YouTube, then for you that's okay because you can just focus on your hobbies and have a jolly old time. But if you're somebody that likes to Netflix and chill a lot, it's gonna get old real quick and it's going to be a very long winter vacation. From here on out, I am only going to be discussing how to get a job at a public school. Some of my advice actually will be relevant for private schools, but just so you know, this advice is mostly tailored to those who are trying to go the public school route the way I did. And we are going to get into the money. So money, 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 money. We are going to talk about what you will get paid according to the EPIK scale. Now, most people come in starting at level 3, so it's pretty much a bachelor's in any subject, a TOEFL degree, and no teaching experience, and depending on your school and your circumstances, you can get paid anywhere from 1.8 to 2.1 million. It's at the discretion of your school. Next, we have salary level 2. Now, at this level, you could be making anywhere from 2 million to 2.2 million, and when I came to Korea, this was the level I started at because I had prior teaching experience in Japan and they counted that. So I actually started at 2.1 million. And the next salary level is level 2.3. So it's all the qualifications you need in order to teach in Korea plus 2 years of teaching experience. So this salary level is 2.1 to 2.3 million. The next level is level 1, so if you've had 3 years of teaching experience, all the prior requirements, your school likes you, you get along with your coworkers, you're going to be making anywhere from 2.3 to 2.5 million. And the last level is level 1 plus, so you've been here a while, have all those prior requirements, you're going to be making anywhere from 2.5 to 2.7 million. With public school, there are 2 main programs. So we have SMOE, which is the Seoul Metropolitan Office of Education, and we also have EPIK, which is for everywhere in Korea now. GEPIK merged into EPIK, so that means you get Russian roulette style. Alright, so next question that I often get is when do I start my application process in order to get a job to come to Korea? Now, if you want to get in on the February intake for the March start date, you need to apply and have all of your documents ready by October the 1st. Early bird gets the worm, and if you want your choice of the litter and your choice of the pickings, you better have your paperwork in on time and be like diligent about it. If you want to start in August or September, you should have your paperwork in by April the 1st. So that is a good tip for you. Write it down, drill it into your head. There will be none of this last minute nonsense. I'm sure you guys all are like, okay, I got my paperwork done, I know when to apply, I'm getting this stuff done. Now how do I find a job? Like, who do I go through? Who do I talk to? Okay, I went through the recruiting agency of Korea, and I highly, highly, highly recommend them. They're really great. They check up on you. They throw parties for the teachers. They're awesome. They have so many like benefits to going through them, like SIM cards and all that stuff. So I went through Korea. They were a recruiter. I was able to pick where I wanted to go in Korea. They have like a huge map, and I was like, I want to go around these areas, and they did their best to help me find a job in those areas. So I'm gonna list off some of the other recruiting agencies that you can go to. These have been recommended to me by other friends and other expats here who have good experiences with these agencies. So another agency you can go through is Eclipse, Reach to Teach, Ask Now, ETO, We Teach Korea, Say Kimchi Recruiting, and CIEE. So maybe you're a DIY kind of person. There are websites and other ways of finding jobs in Korea. And I recommend Dave's ESL Cafe. They have a huge job board posting for many different jobs in Korea. There's also Craigslist, waeguk.org, which is a huge website for file sharing and lesson sharing between teachers in Asia and particularly in Korea. But they also have a job board. And Reddit, believe it or not, you can also get jobs off of there. So there's also Facebook groups that you can join, and some of the ones that I recommend that I've been on are Teaching Jobs Korea, Korea Teaching Job, and Teaching Jobs in Korea. And I will leave links to all of these recruiting agencies and websites and Facebook groups in the description box below, so be sure to check that. Alright, now we've got all of that stuff taken care of, and now it's time for the interview. Before you run away, screaming in circles, sweating your balls off because you're like, I don't know what to do, Gina Bear is here to give you some tips so that you can crush that interview and get the job of your dreams. Be prepared for a panel interview, so you are going to have the English department there and any other relevant personnel who speak English that are going to judge you really hard. Most interviewers prefer the North American accent because it is easier to understand, but make sure, no matter where you're from, that you are clearly enunciating your words so that they can understand you when you talk. Some of the basic things that they are going to ask you is to, of course, introduce yourself, your name, your age, your background, your teaching experience, things like that, why you want to teach English in Korea, and why you would be a good teacher. So make sure that you have answers and good answers prepared. You want to stand out from all the other applicants. In many cases, you are not the only one applying to a certain school. So now I'm going to give you guys a list of potential questions that you could be asked during the interview. This is just a rough guideline, so keep these questions in mind. So they could ask you something like, there are many different levels of students in an English class, how would you deal with it? What are your classroom management techniques? What would you do about a student who is misbehaving in class? Have you ever been to Korea, and what do you know about Korean culture? What qualities do you have that will help you teach a class successfully? What kind of students do you like to work with? What type of students can you teach more effectively? And what do you do about students who are more shy and scared to speak English? So these are all questions that you could get asked. I remember my interview and I did get asked some of these questions, especially the question about if students are shy and what is your approach to helping them speak English. At the end of the interview, they are going to ask if you have any questions. I highly recommend that you have some questions prepared to ask them, so it shows that you are interested in them, in the school, in the position, and again, it sets you apart from all the other applicants, so they will remember you and you will have a higher chance of being hired. Alright, so you got your paperwork, you got your job, you've accepted it, now what? So congratulations, you are now at the part where you've got your job. Yay! You know, get silly. Get silly. Please tell me y'all remember that song because I was all about it when I was in high school. But yeah, you've got your job and, well, what do you do now? So most schools will pay for your entrance allowance, which is about 1.3 million won, or the equivalent of that. If you are good at finding cheap flights, I recommend getting a cheap flight and then pocketing the rest of the money because you will need that your first month in Korea. I also recommend that you contact the previous teacher, so ask them about their working arrangements, what the school atmosphere is like, if there's anything you need to bring or something you have to know in regards to teaching at that school. It's always good to ask so that way you're not going in blind. The more you know, the better it will be for you. Also, another big tip that you guys should totally adhere to is to make sure that you check your housing. While you are abroad in Korea, your house is your home, it is your temple, it is your safe haven away from everything. This is the place that it belongs to you and that you need to feel comfortable and happy with, which is why it's so important to contact the previous teacher so you know exactly what you're getting and how you're getting into it. I know so many people that have gotten into really terrible contracts where their housing isn't that good and they're really unhappy because the housing is so bad. And make sure that if your school doesn't provide housing, that there is a stipend in order for you to get your own house and pay for the rent for your own house. Also, most schools are going to provide a settlement allowance. So when you get to Korea, you get a 300,000 won settlement allowance, which is really helpful because I put my settlement allowance towards the security deposit. So you have to pay 900,000 won for a security deposit, and you have to pay this for the first 3 months that you're there. So just expect like 300,000 won to be taken out of your paycheck in order to pay for this. So if something happens to your house, that is kind of like the fund that they use, that they dig into in order to replace anything that might have been broken. So I hope you all found this video super helpful, and I will also leave a link to my blog post down below, and it's got more details and more information if you want to dig into it deeper. And also don't forget that I have a special 15% off discount for all of you guys to get your TOEFL degree online that's accredited. It's good anywhere in Asia. Like, so many people accept it. Like, I am so grateful for you guys, for all of the opportunities that you guys have given me, because you actually like me, and I am really happy that I'm able to connect with you guys. So I want to give back to you guys, and I hope that this will be helpful for you. And if you guys have any questions, please drop me your questions in the comment box below, and I will be more than happy to answer them. And that's all for this video today. Gina Bear, signing out.
Just tell me where you wanna go. Let me take you there. You see, I've been around the globe. I've seen a lot, but I wanna see what's above. I wanna see what's below.